Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. Going into this NBA season, I don't think anyone out there could have predicted the way this Nets season has turned out so far. I don't think any of, unless you're a fortune teller, then maybe you'll be able to do so, but I don't think the majority of us were able to see what has transpired with this team thus far. Going into this season, the Brooklyn Nets were clear title contenders going into the season. But as time went on, things started to happen. Some very strange things started to happen with this team. And before you knew it, one bad thing after another started to take place. First, Kyrie Irving was told he wouldn't be able to play because of the mandate. And therefore, the Brooklyn Nets told him that he couldn't be a part-time player. He either had to be vaccinated to play all the games, meaning road and home games, or he would have to stay at home. Then time went on, and he had to stay at home because of a ridiculous mandate that at this point is not making any sense whatsoever. Then they later told him, you know what, you can come back and play road games. When he came back to started playing road games, I believe that was the start of the issue with James Harden. But then what happened? Then Kevin Durant got hurt. And by the time we were rolling towards All-Star break, because remember, the Brooklyn Nets were losing some games and Kyrie Irving was only able to play on road games. And it seemed as if James Harden was beginning to grow a little bit disgruntled with the situation there in Brooklyn. Then by All-Star break, James Harden decided, he said, listen, you know what? I want out. And then the Brooklyn Nets ended up trading James Harden to a rival in their same conference. But they got in return Seth Curry, DeAndre Drummond, and of course Ben Simmons, who is yet to play a single game for them. Fine. And many started to believe, heading towards All-Star breaking out of it, that the New York City mayor was going to lift the mandate that was preventing Kyrie Irving from being a player in Barclays Center because of the mandate that they put in place. And what happened? News came out that the New York City mayor had no intentions of modifying its policy. Just to hear that things are going to stay in place, which also created more uncertainty for this team. But the latest news that came out yesterday, and we're getting this from CBSSports.com, totally added a new spin on this entire situation. So I just want to quickly get into the article, and we're going to come back here and really unpack this thing and really get into our thoughts. So the article starts off with this. Nets fined $50,000 for allowing Kyrie Irving to enter a locker room during home game versus the New York Knicks. The Brooklyn Nets picked up another victory on Sunday afternoon, holding off the New York Knicks to 110-107 win. It continues on. That's because Kyrie Irving, who is still not allowed to play in home games at Barclays Center, wasn't in attendance. For the first time, he showed up late in the first half and took a courtside seat as a fan. During halftime, however, he made his way to the locker room, and as a result, the Nets have been fined $50,000. The NBA press release, the Brooklyn Nets organization has been fined $50,000 for violating local New York City law and league health and safety protocols during the team's March 13th game against the New York Knicks at Barclays Center, the NBA announced today. The violation occurred when the Nets allowed Kyrie Irving, who was in attendance at the game, to enter the team locker room. This is an absolutely ridiculous situation on various levels. It flies in the face of basic common sense, what is happening right here. All of this flies in the face of common sense. So help me understand something. They fined Kyrie Irving for entering the locker room with his teammates, but he doesn't get fined in other visiting locker rooms that don't have the same city mandates. However, he's still entering those same locker rooms with the same teammates that he had in Brooklyn. So, if Kyrie Irving is unvaccinated, wouldn't he be a risk in visiting locker rooms as well to his teammates? How is it possible that Kyrie Irving is more of a risk in Barclays than he is on the road when he's hanging around the same people and he is unvaccinated either way. How does that work? How do you justify the policy? The answer is you can't. There is no justification for this. If the policy is meant to protect the players, we're not talking about Kyrie. If the policy is meant to protect because ultimately you want people to get vaccinated for them to be protected. So if the policy is in place to protect the players, how is it possible that he's able to play on the road with these guys if he's unvaccinated? But the moment he walks into the locker room in Barclays, he gets fined. The question is, for what? If he's being fined for the policy doesn't make sense. The policy is incoherent. And I'm not defending Kyrie at all. I don't care either way. What I'm trying to understand is the situation at hand. Unless you're telling me that if Kyrie Irving enters the locker room in Brooklyn, he's somehow going to contaminate the chairs or the lockers or the equipment in the room, how is he not hazardous to his teammates on the road? This thing makes no sense. And listen, as I said, I'm not a fan of Kyrie Irving because of some of the things that he said in the past. I'm not. I mean, I like his game and all of these stuff. I'm not a worshiper. Some guys worship Kyrie. I'm not in that boat. But we're speaking from a logical standpoint here. This thing makes no sense. It seems to me that this is based on certain dogmas versus critical thinking and basic reasoning. Because if you try to reason this thing out, it makes no sense. And let me tell you something, for people watching this video, maybe some of you guys, depending on your line of work, maybe you make policies. If you cannot explain your policies in a clear way, they shouldn't be a policy. Your policies have to make sense under various applications of it. It cannot make sense in one instance when you apply it, and in a different instance, you try to apply the same policy, it doesn't hold water. It is a flawed policy. And for him to be fined, it just seems as if he's being unfairly punished. Because if you say he's not, then I'm going to have to ask you the question to explain what is happening here. How is it possible that Kyrie Irving can be around his teammates as an unvaccinated player on the road, but if he enters the locker room in Barclays, he doesn't become a health hazard to his teammates? Because my understanding is this is meant to be in place to protect the players. And if that's the intended effect, then the policy makes no sense whatsoever. And the question to you guys is, what do you make of this entire situation thus far?